Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, author of the soon-to-be-released In 13 More Days, You Don't Have Long to Wait, the new edition, The 7 Laws of Abundant Living, Lessons Learned from the Tree of Life, available on every one of the online stores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Christian book distributors, Lifeway, Walmart. Wherever books are sold, you can get a copy in time for the Thanksgiving holiday. We're delighted to have as our guest this morning Jonathan McKee, author of The Teen's Guide to Social Media and Mobile Devices, 21 Tips to Wise Posting in an Insecure World. Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Jonathan is the author of over 20 books, including the brand new Teen's Guide to Social Media and Mobile Devices, author of 52 Ways to Connect with Your Smartphone-Obsessed Kid, More Than Just the Talk, Sex Matters, and The Guy's Guide to God, Girls, and the Phone in Your Pocket. He has over 20 years of youth ministry experience, speaks to parents and leaders worldwide, all while providing free resources for parents on his website, The Source 4 parents.com. You can follow Jonathan on his blog. On that site, get a regular dose of youth culture and parenting help. Jonathan and his wife Lori and their 3 kids live in California. He's the founder of the Source 4 ym.com, a popular youth ministry website which averages 550,000 page views monthly and an average of 130,000 users each month. He also founded the sister site to his youth ministry, The Source for Parents, which is for parents. And he is a contributor to various websites and blogs, including dougfields.com, downloadyouthministry.com, Youth Specialties, youthministry.com, churchleaders.com, and many more. The reason I tell you all that is we are challenged today in society with the normalization of concepts that have come back to haunt, to cripple, and to destroy lives. Most recently in the news, we've heard this story about Harvey Weinstein. But yet for over 50 years, the term the casting couch has been used in conversation without any discernment, without any critique, without any hesitation whatsoever, as if it was something that was normal and absolute. Today, kids are posting online videos, pictures, comments, and information that cannot be erased. Lives are being impacted not just from the past, but the present and the future are being determined by a digital era that we are unfamiliar with how to navigate. This is why we want to bring an expert to you, Jonathan McKee, to talk about these issues and more. Jonathan, I'm so thankful to have you on the program to address, because, as I said, the casting couch, 50, 60 years, that term has been used by every American, everybody that has any knowledge of Hollywood, whether or not it's been pastors, youth leaders, students, media, magazines, newspapers, television shows, and there has been no stigma. There's been nothing attached to it whatsoever, but it is nothing more than human trafficking. It is nothing more than sex for exchange for a role or a position, and there has not been an outrage until somebody of this caliber is exposed. And every one of those lives that we so cavalierly referred to as casting couch, their lives were being destroyed in secret, in darkness. And it's part of your mission is to take all of this out of the darkness in today's media age, today's electronic age, so that the things that are hidden in the darkness are brought out into the light. And once they are illuminated, that parents and children can be equipped as to how to make decisions that will last for the rest of their life. So, Jonathan, I am challenging you to take us deeper into an understanding of, first of
Sure,
all,
sure.
the calling, because this is a calling. You've committed yourself to write over 20 books basically geared to this topic of what it is like to grow up in a technological advancing environment where major corporations are investing billions of dollars to give you a phone which can take a better picture. That's the motivation. My 28-year-old daughter calls and says, "Dad, I need this new phone because it takes a better picture." I say, "Buy a camera." She goes, "No, that's not the world we live in. People don't have, you don't have your Betamax hanging on this shoulder with this bag, and your Canon hanging on your shoulder on this, and your phone on your shoulder in the bag, and your laptop. It's all in one now. Everything is all together." Help guide us through. First of all, what was it in your life that caused you to hone in on this particular incredibly important issue?
Well, as my wife and I just started working with young people when we were first married, our hearts were just broken for young people making bad decisions. And my wife and I had both kind of grown up making lots of mistakes. And it was only through really finding a relationship with God and that really changed our lives. And so when we saw young people kind of pushing away truth and exchanging it for lies, that broke our hearts, and we wanted to work with young people. And the more we worked with young people, the more we saw a lot of the technology that they were grasping onto and that they were soaking in every day. And just part of working with young people, every expert out there says, man, we got to be fully aware of what young people are soaking in. And so the more I kind of studied and saw that, the more I interacted with young people, trying to find if they were intrigued by something, how could we use that as a springboard for conversations about truth? It just became a launching point where the more we were doing that, other people were like, "Hey, you seem to be doing something that's working here with young people. Can you train us?" So we kind of started training around locally where we lived, and that became kind of more national and then international, and started writing books on the subject. And here we are, and really our passion now is not only working with young people, but finding anybody, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a youth worker, a coach, a Salvation Army worker, anybody who's investing in the lives of young people today. We want to try to make their job easier. So we try to help them kind of figure this stuff out, figure out why is a song like this on the top of the charts, and what are young people learning from it? What are they doing with this technology, and how do we as a parent respond? Do we overreact? Do we interact? And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give them tools, like a tool like this one, something that we can, not just hand to teenagers, but use as a springboard for interaction. And so we can interact with them about this stuff.
I want to share a personal experience with you that really has rocked in me. It's shaken me a lot. About 15 years ago, maybe even a little longer, I was assigned with the responsibility for a youth group, young, my daughter's aged 13, 14, 15 years old. And we came across this quite incredible teaching series called Pneuma. You remember it?
Actually, I'm not familiar with it, no.
Okay. There were 15-minute videos that were extraordinarily well produced, which contained Old Testament messages, related Jesus back into the rabbinical world of the Jewish life and times of first century Judaism, really kind of embraced the fullness of the Bible in an illustrative and personal way. And it was like, I think they were 12 to 15 minutes. They were at the magic number of attention span of that age group. And
were those the Rob Bell videos?
There you go.
Yeah, okay. I remember those.
Okay. Extraordinarily well done.
Yeah, they were.
And I had the entire collection, and not one of them gave any indication whatsoever that this man was about to go off into the world of heresy and apostasy and make a deep dive off the end. and the discernment. I mean, this was fabulous information. It was well done as a standalone piece without the author being involved. There's still tremendously biblically sound teachings, except they're produced by this individual. Recently, a pastor of a very large church in New York published a book. He's out interviewing, and he has a tremendously large youth following, tremendously large worldwide, maybe one of the largest worldwide ministries with a youth following, and was asked by Oprah Winfrey whether or not God allows abortion, or whether or not God is in favor of abortion. And here's this pastor who answers the question, well, God's the only real judge. This was an opportunity to say that abortion's the leading cause of death in America, and to send a message to the youth around the world that abstinence, that sex is something that should be saved for the marital bed, that there are so many reasons why, biblical reasons why. But the answer was, and so my concern is we have social media, which gives you access to anything and everyone, and can a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old discern the spirits? And what role as parents do we play in this, in equipping our children? And then what active role do we play? Because the model of dropping your child off at school on Monday morning at the public school has now expanded to dropping your child off on Sunday morning, right, at a different door, so that you then don't have to be bothered with your children, and you can abdicate the role of parenting to the youth minister, and then you can go enjoy your service without having to worry about your disruptive child. Have we as parents abdicated our role to technology? Have we abdicated our role to guiding, leading, and directing? Or is there a way through the tools that you've developed to partner? And if there is a partnering, when do we do it? How do we do it? And how does it become effective?
Exactly. And those are the questions that are being asked right now. And I'll answer the one common denominator that everybody agrees on, no matter how liberal or conservative. The one thing that every single person agrees on, if you read 20 different parenting articles, the one thing they'll all agree on is that we need to be talking with young people about this all the time. It's the one thing they'll agree on. When it comes to how strict or how lenient we should be, people will be all over the place. Some will say, let kids, be as free as they want. Others will be like, no, put spyware on their computers. And you'll see all across the spectrum, and everybody varies in opinion. But the one thing they all agree on is that if you have spyware, then when you see whatever that is, talk with them about it. Or if you're letting kids do whatever they want, then that opens up the channels of conversation so you can talk about it. And you know what? This is Deuteronomy 6. It's funny, everybody agrees on it, including the scriptures throughout, which is, talk about with your kids about this stuff as you get up, as you walk along the road, as you go to bed at night. It's through this dialogue and conversation that we're going to make an impact. And that's what we really got to do. And there's all kinds of, you asked a bunch of specific questions. I'm sure we'll dive into them about like what age and when it comes to all those specific boundaries. But the key is this bonding relationship and this communication that needs to happen.
Are parents getting that message?
I think a lot of parents in a world right now where they spend more time in front of a screen than they do actually with their spouse or with their children, I think that message sometimes gets lost because technology is fun. And instead of having to walk around, like you said, with all these different bags with all their technology on it, you could look at a Radio Shack flyer from 1980s, and you could look at every item on that flyer, and every single item is probably on this device right here, and so a piece of technology like this provides a lot of convenience for us. Yes. It helps us do a lot. I mean, like last week I was teaching a parent workshop across the country. This device got me up. It got me on the plane. It got me to where I was going. I had my presentation backed up onto this device if I wanted to send it to the projector as I was teaching. I could use this device as a remote. I could listen to music that my daughter, who's in Europe right now, just put together on a playlist through this device. I mean, so there's all kinds of great things with this device, but it's kind of like when I address young people in school assemblies, I say, hey, this is a great tool to connect with people outside the room when it doesn't interfere with our relationship with the people inside the room. So the question is, I mean, here's this really nice device, kind of like a car is a great device. You can use a car to drive to church or to take your neighbor to a doctor appointment. You could also use it for a drive-by shooting, or you could drink and drive. I mean, so this is a tool, and we need to teach young people how to use this tool. And just like in the same way that we probably wouldn't throw our 14-year-old the car keys and say, good luck, we probably shouldn't just hand them a device and say, I don't know this either, you figure it out. And sadly, what the experts are saying is that majority of parents are doing that. McKee even did a survey a couple summers ago, and McKee does the virus protection, and so they're very into protection and safety. They asked parents and teenagers about their online habits and about this device. And when they asked parents basically, how involved are you in your kids' lives, 74% of parents basically said, I don't have the time or the energy to keep up with this, so I'm just going to hope for the best. And I quote that, hope for the best. And I think that that's pretty accurate. I'd say about 3/4 of parents out there are just kind of saying, hey, you can't keep up, so good luck. And that's not what we need to do. We need to be involved in talking with our kids about this. And I hope that that's what we're going to talk about today, is what that actually looks like day to day for moms and dads and youth workers and people that care about this younger generation.
You know, you paint a picture of parents which are, it's so real. Parents have their priorities, their busyness. We've talked with many who have set up a basket where you put your electronic device in the basket and you have family time. We talk with lots of MOPS parents who, mothers of preschoolers, who are talking about how they're going to raise their children in a technological environment, that the iPad has become the 700 toys that we used to play with all the time. All of that's contained now on the iPad. So a 2-year-old is iPad proficient, where the 50-year-old grandfather is iPad illiterate. He doesn't know what an app is. He doesn't know what a download is. And so he doesn't really know what is going on. How do we elevate the importance of this? I know that no parent would give their children a shotgun at 4 years old and say, figure it out. Because
and that's the question. And for example, in the United States, the average age that a young person gets a smartphone right now is 10.3 years old. That's according to a brand new Nielsen report. And so if you figure a 10-year-old, a fourth grader, fifth grader is typically getting a smartphone. And by the way, that's just a smartphone. The other devices, the iPads, the iTouch, the devices that have all that same stuff on it except the phone part. So think about that for a second. Because some parents will all the time say, oh, I didn't give my kid a phone, but they have an iPad or they have an iTouch. Well, okay, so they can't pick up the phone and call, but they can do all that other stuff. They just don't have a signal maybe necessarily on the bus, but they do at home wherever there's a Wi-Fi signal. And this is the tough thing. It's kind of an education thing. This is brand new. I mean, let's look back in history here in just the last decade. It was 2007 that Steve Jobs stood up on a stage and he held up a device a little smaller than this one, and it was the first iPhone. Yeah. And he introduced it. He said, we're going to call this an iPhone. And he basically said, I have an invention that's going to change the world. And his words were really prophetic, because at the time there wasn't a lot of smartphones. They weren't really smart. But by 2005, that was 2007. By 2012, just 5 years later, in the United States crossed the 50% mark for smartphone ownership. So that meant that now in the United States, they didn't just have a device in their pocket that was something that they could text someone else that they could call someone else. They now carried around their entire entertainment media library with them. The ability to stream movies, the music, everything. The ability to jump onto social media. So this changed the way people started talking. It changed the way young people started talking, because around 2012, as moms and dads got the new iPhone, they'd hand the old one down to youngster. So, I mean, here we are, 2017, over 3/4 of young people in America have a smartphone in their pocket, which means they got social media in their pocket. And a lot of us can remember back 5-7 years ago, every article about young people was how many texts they did per month. You'd see the headlines about 3,000 texts a month, 5,000 texts a month. And you even saw phone plans changing because parents got $400 and $500 bills from texting. And they were like, what? And so immediately phone companies even started changing and saying, hey, free texting plans. And parents were jumping on this. Well, you know what? Young people don't even text that much anymore. And it's not that they aren't communicating with each other. It's that they're using a different means. They're using now Snapchat. You know, they're using different means to communicate with each other, because why text when you could send a picture of your cool face and say, this class stinks, and send a picture with that message to someone else? It's a little more fun. So young people have the ability to put the word selfie. If I would have said the word selfie 5 years ago, you would have said, huh? Because honestly, that word wasn't even mainstream 5 years ago. Why? They didn't have a device with them that they could click a picture, post it, and see how well people liked it. So now we've got a device with us that also is determining our self-esteem. How many likes do I get? How many followers do I get? And you, like me, have probably noticed newspaper articles recently saying depression is an unprecedented high. Suicide among teen girls is at a 40-year high right now.
Right.
And it's always been tough out there, but now young people can't even escape it, because when the bell rings after school, they now enter a whole new world where they have to measure up and be good enough and be liked. And this is creating all kinds of, difficulties. And again, it's not that this device is bad, but we as people who care, we as moms and dads and aunts and uncles and youth workers, we need to start having conversations about where our value comes from and about thinking before you post. And that was just one of the things I really wanted to do, is because I've been doing this in school assemblies and putting it in print form and saying, okay, here's a tool you can use to not just hand your kids, but hey, read chapter 10 about Snapchat and let's dialogue about this and let's talk about this. And that's why I put discussion questions at the end of every chapter, so a mom or dad can talk with them about this and where you're getting your value from. Your value is worth so much more than a like.
We're talking with Jonathan McKee, author of The Teen's Guide to Social Media and Mobile Devices, 21 Tips to Wise Posting in an Insecure World. On the back cover it says, looking back, she doesn't even know why she posted it. Maybe she was tired, feeling alone, or maybe it was because she didn't pause for more than 7 seconds before hitting send. She intended to be discreet, snapping her post to just a few friends because it disappears, doesn't it? But half of her classmates had seen it by the next day.
And that is the issue right now, that, man, when I go teach a school assembly somewhere, I sit down with the principal, and very often he'll have this look on his face like, I'm so tired, Jonathan, because I've just been doing triage on our campus right now, because there was a picture sent all around campus of some young girl who sent a picture to her boyfriend. She thought it disappeared, and when they broke up, boyfriend sent it to everybody and said, look at this tramp, or probably a worse word. And all of a sudden, here's this young girl who doesn't even want to go to school anymore because everybody's laughing at her and pointing at her. And sadly, this happens all the time. And this is and this actually isn't the exception. I mean, you probably go to any campus, you've seen it. Now, does that mean that every young person with one of these devices is snapping naked pictures of themselves and sending out? No, depending on which study you look at, it's somewhere between 7 and 28% of young people today that are doing it. But sadly, a lot of young people are regretting what they post on this device. As a matter of fact, I think it was Common Sense Media, I quoted in the book there, did a survey, and they asked young people and parents, how many guys regret something you post? And among teenagers, over 50% of them said they regret something they post once a week. That's a lot of regret.
That's a lot of regret.
why we need to start having these conversations about, hey, maybe wait, maybe sleep on it before you hit that pause button. But the other thing is also just providing them with good information. Now, I know this is where a lot of parents might say, Jonathan, wait a sec, how can I teach them to use a device that they know better than me? Honestly, if a parent wants to put controls on this device and they're like, okay, let me add the controls, I don't know how to do this. And the teenager will be like, give me that. Okay, here's what you do. You go into settings, then you hit your password, which, mom, I know is your birthday, right? Okay, so here you go. Enter it here. Then what you do is, and sadly, a lot of parents feel like their kids would almost know this device better than them. Right. But see, sadly, the things that kids don't know sometimes is the stuff like how to be cautious, like on who they're friending and who can see them and whether they're posting their location. And where this really gets real for, like, I mean, take a typical 17-year-old American girl, and maybe one of her favorite apps is Instagram, and she's at a coffee shop, and as she's there and she's drawn on her coffee cup and she takes a quick picture of her beautifully decorated coffee cup and she's all late night study session, boom, post a picture. Now, if she hasn't thought about two things, one, whether she posts her location, because sometimes it's fun to post a location. I'm at Starbucks, and it just says Starbucks there. Maybe she doesn't realize if somebody clicks on that, they can actually see where that is on a map right then. The other issue is, who has she friended? Maybe she's friended some people that asked her because they saw her post and they said, hey, I want to be your friend. And remember, we live in a world where it's better if you have more friends. And a lot of young people want more friends because it looks better if you've got more friends. So somebody from a different school, from a different state, goes to friend you, and you look at their profile, you look at their picture, and hey, it's an 18-year-old from Huntington Beach. Sure, they seem nice, I'll friend them, and what they don't realize is they just friended a 44-year-old naked pedophile sitting in his basement watching these posts. And the scary thing is now this young teenage girl has just posted a picture with a location on a map of where she is, where she's about to walk to her car through a dark parking lot to who knows where. And these are the questions. These are the questions.
We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, these are some of the questions we are going to address as we talk about the Teen's Guide to Social Media and Mobile Devices with Jonathan McKee. We'll be right back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, we invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our one-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate, buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Jonathan McKee, author of The Teen's Guide to Social Media and Mobile Devices, 21 Tips to Wise Posting in an Insecure World. Jonathan, welcome back to the program.
Hey, glad to be here.
Jonathan, you referred to things like Snapchat, and then there are another of other social media or other communication devices that tout themselves as disappearing, or they're completely private, or they unhackable, or they appear for a while and then they disappear. Is that really true?
Well, actually, it's funny because Snapchat presents itself as, and the word they'll use is ephemeral, the pictures are only there temporarily. And pretty much every expert out there will say nothing is ever temporary on the internet, because there's, screenshots and there's ways to access pictures from the cache. And so Snapchat, when they first came out, present themselves and kind of really as like, hey, send this picture and it'll disappear with all your worries and accountability and concerns, and a lot of young people started to figure out that that wasn't quite the case, because these disappearing pictures were being captured. And even though the picture did disappear in 7 seconds, if your friend, screenshotted it or went to the Apple store and actually bought software that specifically said, capture Snapchat pictures, and you could buy that and it would grab it out of the cache of your phone. I mean, this is what happened. And so in 2014, the Federal Trade Commission here in America gave Snapchat a hand slap and said, you guys are misrepresenting yourselves. You guys are actually, I think their words were, deceiving their users. And so Snapchat had to kind of change some things. And they had to, for example, create a message that when their thing was screenshotted, it now sends the receiver a message saying your picture was just screenshotted. And they attempted some of this stuff. Although now you can even Google and see people writing articles about, hey, how to avoid that message being sent that your picture was screenshotted. But the short of it is simply this. We as moms and dads and people care about this younger generation, we need to give our kids information about this. We need to tell them the whole story, and we need to let them know that, nothing you post is temporary. And so don't post a picture of something you don't want mom, dad, grandma, your future boss, Jesus seeing, because young people aren't thinking before they post this. And so this is a communication thing. This is, and you can't tell a teenager what to do. You can't be like, do this. So like when I talk to young people about this in school assemblies, when I talk to them about it in a book, I really try to come across as, here's some good information for you to consider. And instead of saying, okay, here's how you should change your settings. It's like, for example, if I ever want to talk to a young person about who can see what they post and their location information, for example, I won't say, here, pull out your settings. Here's what you should do with your settings. Because kids will be like, so what I do is I'll tell them a story. I'll tell them the story of, for example, the true story of this creepy guy who used to find young ladies' location information from their posts or when they would check in on Facebook, for example. And then he would actually then he would look through the post, look for that one post that was from their house. And usually you could tell that because it was before they got ready for some event, and two girls together in you could see them with hairbrushes in the background on the bathroom counter, and they take a quick pose before their night out. Well, he would look at that and he'd go, that's the picture I want. And he'd look, and if they posted their location there, very often he could find out where they lived. Next thing you know, when they were asleep, he would sneak into their house, sneak into their bedroom, and he would steal their underwear out of their underwear drawer, sometimes 3 feet from where they were sleeping. The cops called this guy the underwear guy. Now, whenever I tell this story in school assemblies, I can always see kids, all of a sudden I could see girls pulling out their phones and starting to scroll through, and they're kind of like, wait, did I ever post my location? And they start looking to see if they posted their location. And all I did was I told a story. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to be able to give young people information so they can make a more informed decision. Because even right now, and when our kids are young, one thing I talk about a lot with moms and dads is being very strict when our kids are young and having lots of boundaries. But we also need to keep our eye on the calendar. And what I mean by that is someday our kids are going to be 18 years old. They're going to be across the country in a college dorm, an army barracks. They're going to be somewhere by themselves. And the question is, are they going to call you up at that time and say, hey, can I have this app? Can I watch Game of Thrones? Are they going to ask these questions? No, they're not. They're going to make that decision on their own. And the question we have to ask is, have we prepared them for that day? Have we given them the information and taken them through this back when we were strict and we had those guardrails in place and we said, sorry, no phone in the bedroom and stuff. And even when they came up with us, and here's the other thing, moms and dads will say, well, Johnson, how do I give them this information when I don't even know it? Here's the line we have to memorize. If our kid comes up to us and says, Mom, Dad, can I have Instagram? What we need to be able to reply is, I don't know. Let's check it out together. And as a mom or dad, if we say those words, then we can say, let's look, and we can Google Instagram safety concerns, Instagram parental controls, and we could look it up. If they say, can I have Snapchat? We can use tools like this one, and we can say, hey, let's read the Snapchat chapter together, and then let's decide whether it's something you want. And in that way, when they're off on their own someday, instead of asking mom or dad, hey, is this app acceptable? Because there's always going to be a new app. Instead, they've been taken through the process time and time again by mom and dad where, hey, let's look up and see if this is safe. Oh, it says here we should be careful who we friend. It says here we should, be careful what we post here and not post our location. It says, and as they start to learn these principles, because they've gone through it and mom or dad has walked with them. Hey, there's that term again, walked with them. As you walk along the road, as you go to bed at night, have these conversations. And that's what we need to do as mom and dad.
Sounds kind of utopian. Sounds kind of like parents are going to have to make their children a priority, and the outsourcing of the raising of our children is going to have to start becoming insourced again. What is the risk? What's the downside to the family not doing this, not taking this 10 to 12-year-old child and participating with them? What's the risk? What long-term risk are they putting their child in by not actively parenting?
The list is endless: emotional, spiritual, cognitive, physical. There's so many consequences that can happen when we don't give. And this is, again, we could talk from a spiritual perspective. We can even talk about what secular experts are saying. In fact, in my book, If I Had a Parenting Do-Over, I talked about a study that a lady by the name of Alexandra Samuels did, where she took the information from 10,000 parents, where they were asked about their online, basically how they parented young people in an online world. And she observed three types of parents. And I found this fascinating because you look at some of these consequences like you just asked about. She observed three types of parents. And the first type of parent she observed was one that basically was the parent that let their kids do whatever they want. They were kind of the idea of, hey, no rules. I want to have this relationship with you. So I'm the friend parent, right? And so they let their kids do whatever they want. And this, again, this is secular research. This lady, what she observed was, well, it wasn't that good because, this parenting style was any technology is good technology. And what happened is these parents were caught doing triage, bailing their kids out from stuff that was happening all the time. I mean, even the government has, the Federal Trade Commission in America has, FTC has COPPA, COPPA, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. And COPPA declares that you have to be, wait for it, on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Do you know how old you have to be, according to COPPA? 13 years old. Now, we've got the average age a young person is getting a smartphone right now is 10 years old. And the first thing they want to do is they want to get an app, and for a lot of them, it's games and fun stuff. But a lot of them are like, I want to be on Snapchat like my older brother, like my friends at school. Well, if you go to sign up for Snapchat or you go to sign up for, Instagram, immediately it says, oh, sorry, you're not old enough. And so that's when their friend goes, hey, dummy, just change your birth year and then you'll be old enough. Oh, okay. And so then you can lie about your age, and now 11-year-olds are on this. But I mean, even the government is saying, hey, 13-year-old is the bare minimum of when you can decide, am I talking with this guy who really represents himself and says they're an 18-year-old from Huntington Beach, or am I talking to that 44-year-old naked guy in his basement? Let's make that bare minimum 13. So here, this lady in her study, she says, when you let your kids do whatever you want, you're constantly, just having to, the consequences are endless of the trouble that young people are getting into when they're allowed to do whatever they want. So that was the first type of parent she observed. She also saw a parent on the complete opposite end of the scale. And by the way, she called that parent that lets your kid do whatever you want the enabler parent. But the other parent she saw on the opposite end was called the limiter parent. And that was the parent that downloaded all the parenting software and made all the decisions for their kid. Can you have that app? Nope, it's not on the list. Can I have this song? Nope, it's not on the list. I wanted to, I can't do there because this is blocking me. And basically they were blocked from everything. And basically what she observed, this is her research, Alexandra Samuels, she said the limiter parents, that's what she called them, basically made all the decisions for their kids. And what she observed was when these kids came to age where they had to make these decisions for themselves, they'd never been taught what to do. They'd always just been told what to do. But she noticed a third type of parent, and this is powerful. She called it the mentor parent. And the mentor parent wasn't the parent that necessarily knew all the answers. It wasn't the parent that let the kid do whatever they want or blocked them from everything. It was the parent that when the kid came up and said, hey, can I have this? The parent said, I don't know, let's check it out together. And they walked with them through the process. Here's a secular researcher, and you know what she discovered? She discovered that Deuteronomy 6 parenting of let's walk along the road, let's do this together, worked. That was her observation. And you can read the whole study in the If I Had a Parenting Do-Over book, as I detailed it, because I spent the entire last chapter of that book talking about what it means to walk with our kids in today's day and age. What's that actually look like when it comes to what they want to watch on Netflix, what they want to listen to. And this is sobering for us in a world where right now the number one song in the first few lines of the song that right now on the charts today, the number one song talks about having sex with hoes, popping pills, and grabbing an Uzi and shooting somebody. That's the number one song right now. And we as moms and dads, we need to be aware that this is all available to them at just the tap of their fingers. We need to start having these conversations with our kids and walking with them through this process.
Have you found that your book gives them the ability to navigate these discussions that they felt inadequate or that they felt previously incapable of even having?
Well, I think for those parents that are constantly feeling like, man, I don't even know what to tell my parent. Excuse me, these parents are telling, I don't even know what to tell my teenager to do with this device other than be careful, make good choices. So the nice thing about the Teens Guide, to social media is here's a tool you can hand your kid, and you can say, hey, read this. And honestly, my friend Doug Fields, who speaks to parents all the time, he says, you know what I like about this? He goes, this can be the new phone contract that moms and dads can now use for their kids, which is read this book and then you get your device. Because this talks about everything from the who are you friending to the, hey, are you posting your location, to thinking before you post. There's a chapter on pornography. There's a chapter on self-esteem. There's a chapter on entertainment media. And in every one of these, I'm providing information for them to consider. And then the discussion questions are really made for a parent to sit down with their kid and say, hey, what do you think? They apparently, according to the study, the average entertainment media that a 12 through 17-year-old gleans per day is 9 hours a day. Wow, that's a lot. You think you're at that average? Are you below that average? Are you above that average? And it gets all of a sudden having conversations about this, and it kind of opens up those doors of dialogue in the home. But it also gives them information that maybe mom or dad doesn't know the information about Snapchat. That this, because in this book, I highlight 3 concerns with Snapchat. And I make it very clear, some young people probably are using Snapchat innocently, but here's 3 things you probably should consider with Snapchat that are important to think about. And this is great to get moms and dads dialoguing about this with them, so maybe young people can steer away from some of these consequences early on.
Give me kind of a snapshot of if you have some praise reports or you have some testimonies of the impact and the effectiveness of this. It's one thing to put out there these programs and ideas. It's another thing to say, well, they're great and they're really wonderful and wow, that's the perfect solution, but A, nobody's using it, B, people are using it and it's having no impact, or C, we're actually seeing, and here's, because we are overcomers by the word of our testimony and the blood.
And that's a great question. And luckily, the one thing that's cool is like you jump on Amazon right now and you'll see a bunch of reviews posted from people who've actually used this and tries this. And currently on Amazon right now, as I'm looking at it, and in my book to guys, this one right here, you'll see it, The Guy's Guide to God, Girls, and the Phone in Your Pocket, are like right now today as I'm looking, they're number 1 and number 2 wished for books in their category. And so read some of those reviews. When I send it out, one thing, just a little peek behind the scenes, before this went to print, I sent it to over 30 parents and youth workers and said, test drive this thing for me. Try this with young people. So over 100 young people actually had this and tried it. So I had friends out there that I said, man, trust me, I want this kid to be real. And if they think this stinks, I want to know about it. Try these discussion questions. Which question didn't work? And I still remember, like my friend Rob, who's a youth worker in Indiana, he emailed me. He goes, okay, so I tried this chapter with my daughter, and she was really good with this question, this question, this question. But this question, she kind of looked at me like, huh, what? So it was neat. I had over 100 young people try this, and I got that feedback, and I was able to kind of tweak. And if I saw some common denominators, this question didn't work, I was able to tweak it. And I like to do that before a book goes to print, because I want it to be something that I see actually working out there on the front lines. The neat thing is I've seen stuff now it's in print, like my friend Greg Steer, who speaks to young people about sharing their faith.
Greg's been a guest on our show, so we know Greg.
Greg's a great guy, loves Jesus, and he's a good dad. And he was with his daughter Kaylee, and he gave her this book, and he just kind of watched her. And it was funny because he said that he would see her reading a chapter, and then he said he would see her get close like this, and then he said he saw her take her device and take a picture of something. And kind of like I want to read this later again. And I was sitting there going, okay, now that's a great testimony right there. If somebody's taken a picture of something. And so I'm finding a lot of young people, and it's hilarious because let's be honest, the book is most often bought by mom, dad, or grandma,
Right.
and sometimes if a kid sees, oh, teens got one, oh, great, you're going to give me a guidebook, great. I'm not saying teens are going to be like, great, this is just what I needed, but what young people are finding is that, and I'll tell you, a lot of parents are using this. Kids are constantly doing stupid things with their phones. It happens all the time. And I've had parent after parent on a workshop where they're like, oh, good, my 16-year-old just got her phone taken away for what she posted last week. I'm going to have her go through this book with me. And if she wants her device back, she can go through this. So, I mean, isn't that nice that my book is being used as punishment? I don't know what to think of that exactly, but it is this idea of let's talk about this. This is important stuff. We need to dialogue. And the cool thing I'm hearing is once teenagers read it, I'm hearing good feedback from them like, wow, this is some good stuff. I never heard that before, or this is something to think about. So yeah, I've been getting good reports. Like I said, jump on and take a peek at what people are saying on Amazon because been getting great feedback so far, and I'm excited because my whole goal is to start to kind of jumpstart these discussions and give young people this information as they go out and they embark in a very insecure world.
I'm excited to get to know you, Jonathan. We've been talking about the Teen's Guide to Social Media and Mobile Devices, 21 Tips to Wise Posting in an Insecure World by Jonathan McKee. But the other titles, If I Had a Parenting Do-Over, I can't tell you how many times you, our audience, have talked to me about regret. How many times I've replayed scenarios over in my mind that if I had to do it over again, would I do it that way, or how would I do it? How to rethink and how to be able to not only parent, even today an older child, but also how to grandparent, which is now becoming a much more involved than just the weekend or one weekend a month or the annual visit. Grandparenting is becoming an integral part of this new era of us living longer, being more engaged with our children and our grandchildren, and you too need those tools. So I strongly recommend that you visit both the Twitter, In Jonathan's Head, his Facebook, In Jonathan's Head, the website, the source, number4parents.com, and that you connect with Jonathan for both your friends, your family, your own future, your child's future. That application 21 years from now at some law school, when they pull out a picture off of Instagram that they use that blocks your child's career, that kind of regret is something you can avoid, but you must play an active role in raising your children. No longer is it an outsourcing environment. Raising our children, especially at this age, where shaming, bullying, suicide issues are propping up today that we did not face in the 50s and the 60s. We just toughed it out, and if there was a bully, we figured it out. But today is completely different. Children are losing their lives. Lives are being impacted dramatically because of social media and technology, and we are woefully ignorant as to what to do about it. If there was a tool out there that you needed to fix your car, or you were a handyman and you wanted to fix your house, you'd run right out to Home Depot, you'd run right out to Lowe's, and you wouldn't think twice about spending $25 to get that custom bit to move that one little knot or nut or whatever it was. Do this for your family. Do it for the life of your children and your grandchildren. Give them a gift that keeps on giving for the rest of their life and will make them better parents as well. Jonathan McKee, thank you so much for being with us here on Revealing the Truth. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth. Back.